Testing 1, 2, 3. This is Fareed Kamal, the attorney for the Black Middletown Project on July the 1st. Okay. And when did you come to this city?
I came here to Muncie when I was 4 years old with my parents.
Okay. And have you been here ever since?
Yes.
And where were you born?
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And what year was that?
1911, May the 30th.
And so you were raised in Muncie?
Yes.
How old were you when you were 4, you were saying? But how did you travel?
We came by train.
And before coming, did you live anywhere else?
I lived in Bowling Green, but I can't remember that.
After you moved, do you remember any communication with the people in Bowling Green, your relatives or friends? Did you keep contact with them?
Not real close contact. I was back there when I was about 6 years old, and I hadn't been back until years later.
When you moved, did anybody come with you besides your mother and father?
I had an older brother, a younger sister, and a younger brother at that time.
Okay. Do you know why your family moved here?
Because my father had been raised where they had tobacco crops and farm work in Kentucky, and I had other relatives that had been here ahead of us, and they decided that there was better work here and better opportunity, so we moved.
Did you know anyone already here?
I think my family knew another family or two that came from some parts of Kentucky too.
Did they have anything to do with you coming?
I don't really remember.
So, did your father or your father and mother, did they expect better work here?
Yes.
Did they find what they expected?
Well, he found, at the time it seemed like it was a better job. It was foundry work, which they had just been used to farm work. Mm-hmm. And so he worked in a foundry for a while, and then went to Ball Brothers glass factory. Mm-hmm. And he worked there quite a number of years. I just can't remember how many.
What street did you live on when you got here?
We lived on East 8th Street.
Is that in industry or?
Industry.
And what was your home like then?
What was it like? Oh, we had a fair home life, and then I had 6 other brothers. There was 10 of us in all.
Okay. So were there modern conveniences, like indoor bathrooms and things like that?
Not at that time.
Oh, was there electricity and things like that?
No, we had oil lamps. Mm-hmm. And no inside toilet. Mm-hmm. No sinks.
Mm-hmm. Well, water from the pump and things like that?
A pump.
Was it an indoor pump?
Outdoor.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What was the neighborhood like?
It was a nice neighborhood. Mostly colored people lived in that neighborhood.
How did the people treat each other? Or how did they treat you?
Oh, I was always treated nice.
Now, how many times did you move since coming to Muncie? Approximately.
3 times while I was at home. And then I married.
Now, what types of neighborhoods have you lived in during the times that you moved?
Mostly just colored neighborhoods. Sometimes be maybe 1 or 2 white families.
Were the moves from Whiteley to Industry in those 2 areas, or were they just in Industry?
I lived in Industry all of them times till after I was married.
And you moved in Whiteley?
Mm-hmm.
On what street was that?
I moved to Burns Street in Whiteley. That was after I was married.
And how long were you there?
Maybe a year or so. And then we moved to Butler Street, and we lived there. I believe about 10 or 11 years.
And is that after that you moved here to here, or have you just been here recently?
I just moved here 14 years ago.
So were you in Whiteley before you came here?
Mm-hmm.
What other types of neighborhoods have the blacks lived in? Just Whiteley and Industry?
Mostly.
Okay. Now, what kind of jobs were people like yourself and your neighbors holding when you got here in the 20s and 30s?
Well, most women did housework or restaurant work or laundry work, that sort of thing. Most men worked in factories, but after I was married, my husband was an automobile mechanic.
Because you were 4 when you got here, you were saying. And what year was that?
Must have been about 1915.
Now, what kind of work did your husband get? You were saying, was it in a factory or automobile plant?
No, he was an automobile mechanic by trade, and he always worked in his own garage.
He didn't have any problems getting established or anything like that?
Well, not. Started off slow, just when he first started, the most of the work he did was right in our own yard.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And what about yourself? What kind of work did you find?
I just did housework and cooking and worked in restaurants. Laundry work.
How did you feel about the work?
Well, I guess I was that type of person that didn't really make a job out of a job, and if I had it to do, I could do it. But not being more educated, like to acquire an office job or something of that sort, that was all I could do.
Now, were there any other kind of jobs black people could get if they were educated?
Well, yes, because then if I had been an educated woman, it could have been a teacher or an office worker or something of that sort. I could have picked a better job.
Now, was your income from your work enough to allow you to do what you wanted for yourself, for you and your husband?
No.
For your husband?
No.
Was his income enough?
Well, in starting out, it was not, I wouldn't say it was quite adequate because of the children. See, we had, there was 15 of the children in all over a period of time.
Okay. You were talking about your children. You were saying about 15?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had 11 girls and 12 girls and 3 boys. And then I raised another boy. So that made 16 in all, but I got 2 that's dead of my own.
So was that all from one marriage?
Yes.
All those children?
Mm-hmm.
From your husband?
Mm-hmm.
Now, so how many grandchildren?
There's more than 50. I'd have to guess.
Are they all in Muncie?
No, not all in Muncie.
Okay, so all your children they're not all from Muncie?
Not all of them.
Okay. Where do, are they around in Indiana?
Well, I got a daughter in Marion, one in Newcastle, and 3 in Indianapolis, and a boy in Indianapolis.
So everybody's in Indiana? So how'd you make it, so did you manage to make ends meet though during
Yes.
But work was a problem, it was a necessity for both of you to work?
I didn't work much, too much, just off and on, you know, that I would be working, but it was a help because having that many girls, they required more clothing than the boys, but I sewed, and so that helped to compensate for their clothing. In later years, when automobile work got to be good, and the boys were older, then he taught that trade to both of the boys, and then the wages that he made was pretty good.
Now, do you remember the biggest problem when your family got here, with your father, mother, and your brothers and sisters? The biggest problem that you remember them talking about when they got to Muncie?
Well, I suppose in them days there was segregation, but I guess when you know a thing, we really knew where to go, and so we never really had too big a problem. But during them early years of our life, though, I can remember that there was the Klan was here, you know, during them earlier years.
Were they right in Muncie?
Yes.
You know where their office was, or their headquarters?
I don't really know where their headquarters was, but I remember when I was young, I don't remember really how old I was, that they marched on Walnut Street, South Walnut. I don't know where their headquarters or anything was, but I do know that because I saw them.
What was it? So did the black community do anything about that? Or was it just a thing,
At that time, it was just one of those things, you know, that
you
they
expected?
just went on and nobody really paid very much attention to it.
Did the Klan ever try to do anything violent
Well,
in the open?
during that time, as far as I can remember, they burned several crosses in people's yard.
Were there any particular acts against you and your family? Did you know?
No.
How about any close neighbors? Anything like that?
Not any close neighbors that I knew.
Or how about any people that you know, name or anything like that?
I can't remember anybody's name right now.
just, I guess, just trying to figure out if any, these people are still living.
Mm-hmm.
That remember.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about work for your father when he was raising the family, and your mother when she was?
Well, my mother didn't work, and she wasn't too well in them years, but later years she became better, and she's still living. My father's dead, but my mother's still living, and she'll be 90 years old in September if she lives that long.
She lives in Muncie?
She lives in Anderson, but she's in Muncie right now, but she's at my niece's house.
So, was it, did your father have enough money to make ends meet?
Well, he didn't make really good wages, but she was a pretty good manager, so we sort of a struggle. And then he died when my two younger brothers were young. They were yet at home.
You were out?
I was married then.
Mm-hmm. So your mother just looked after
the two boys. Mm-hmm.
Were there any groups or people to help any black people if they had problems when they got here? Like the Klan or any money problems?
I don't think so. I don't think there even was anything like a welfare or anything at that time when we first came here. I don't remember anything like that. And we never had any aid like that. And then, of course, during the really depression years, where they had what they called WPA, mostly everybody that was didn't have a job, where they'd be on that program, but they'd give you a certain amount of food, but you'd have to go and work so many days for it.
Well, what was your family like during the Depression?
Well, there was 10 of us. There was 8 boys and 2 girls in our family.
You were still at home?
No, I was married then, and 29, and it was kind of rough for everybody then. But as I say, that they had what they called the WPA, and he was on that program.
Okay. Your husband?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember any experiences that stick out in your mind during the Depression?
Well, no. But it was really bad times for mostly everybody, but I guess when you've been used to that, well, you don't pay too much attention to it, you know.
In general, how did you and your family and your friends entertain yourselves during the Depression?
Just mostly at home, like popping corn and ice cream and things like that on the weekends, you know. I'd always have something special for the kids, or make rolls or something that they especially liked. And outside of going to church, and most all the children went to Sunday school, and that's about all the entertainment there was.
Did the Depression affect your educational opportunities, or your children's educational opportunities?
Well, my oldest daughter graduated, and my second boy didn't graduate at that time, but he always worked in the garage with his dad. But after 17 years out of school, he took the GE test and got a high school diploma.
Okay.
And then one of my girls went to the Ways, and she took the GE test and she graduated. And so she did a lot of business work and took a lot of courses and different things, and finally she went to college, some, and still has been in these latter years, and raised her own family, and still she went to school. And I have another daughter that graduated, and then my youngest daughter graduated, but several of them all took the GE test and got a diploma anyway. I don't have any college graduates, but they all know how to work.
When you were 4 when you moved, so it wouldn't have affected your education, because
I was the first year in high school when I quit.
But so you went to elementary school here and everything like that? Why did you leave high school first? Did you went to work or something like that?
Well, I was the second oldest in our family, and there was 10 of us. So in a way I felt that my father's salary wasn't really adequate to send me, and so I just quit. Then later I got married and moved away from home.
How would you describe the relationships among black people when you came here in Muncie? It looks like how black people treated other black people.
Oh, I think they were just as nice as they are today, or even nicer. And in a way, there was some things that was here then that isn't here now. Because after we moved to Whitey, there used to be a restaurant there that they don't have now, and a barber shop. Of course, they have 2 barber shops now. But there was different things that black people did that they don't have, today. And of course, they had a shoe shop for quite some time, that Armstrong's shoe shop that's right there on Penn Street right now. He used to be downtown on Walnut Street, but he's deceased, but his son operates it now. And
any other businesses?
Well, that cigar store was always there. And of course there was another colored grocer, which his wife operates. That Parrott's Grocery used to be by an elderly man that was here a long time ago, and he was a school teacher too. And of course his daughter-in-law now has that Parrott's Grocery.
His name is Parrott? Did he start in the 20s or earlier than that?
Oh, earlier than that, I can imagine, because he was an older man than we was. And the first lot and small house that we lived in, we bought the lot from him. And he had a grocery store there. Yeah.
But he wasn't in that same location he is now.
He was on the other side of the street when he had it.
Right.
And then when his son grew up and took the store, he built another store across the street, and they tore the old one down.
And did his son pass away? His
son passed away, and now his son's wife has that store that's there on Highland now.
Okay. Now, did the Depression period change black people's attitudes towards each other? And how they treated each other?
I don't think so. I think that, I think years back that people remembered each other maybe more, in a way. And now this fast-moving pace, sometimes people don't even know their neighbors. So I think that then that people were friendlier maybe than they are in some instances now.
How about the relationships between blacks and whites? How was it? And,
Well, when we first came, we knew we was segregated when we first came to Muncie, but as a rule, we didn't have any problem out of the people, because if you didn't bother them, they didn't bother you. But in later years, there seems that there has been people that, like white people, that migrated from the South, and they're in this part of the country now, that it's almost as bad as it was in the South. And so I can understand that right now, that how they'll bring back that clan, or try to, like they have recently. Tried to bring it back, because they had that problem here not too long ago, down there on Weiser Street. And
what, the Klan was marching down there or something? They wanted to march?
well, I suppose because some white woman was married to a colored man, or was living with a colored man, and moved in that neighborhood down there, they wanted to run them out of there. I guess they did carry it on so that they had to, they moved. And so that part has looked like trying to take us back 100 years or so. So I don't think their attitude has improved. I mean, with the years, it don't seem like. Of course, you may have more freedom for some things because there's too many people that just won't allow it,
But it's basically, you think it's kind of like the same as it was before?
With some people it is, but nowadays there's such a thing that the government allows you a little bit more freedom as to having the same thing that they have, or doing the same thing that they do if you're qualified. So now they have reason to be educated, they can do. And of course, if you're not, well, you're just as bad off as there was a long time ago.
Do you remember any particular experiences that you had involving whites that stood out in your mind?
I never really had a problem with them. I mean, I've worked with them for years and managed to get along with them. But usually never worked where there was very many other colored people other than myself.
How about your husband and your father? Do you remember them talking about anything?
Well, really, my husband never had any problem, I don't suppose, because all Mexicans was treated as same as white people in the first place, so they didn't really bother him. But since it was a colored family that he was married into, why, he just stayed with the colored family. But was allowed to go any place he wanted to, because he belonged to the Navy when there wasn't any colored people in the Navy.
Okay. So, were there a lot of Mexicans in Muncie during that time?
Yeah.
So, so they were treated like the whites. Who did they identify more with? The whites or the blacks?
Well, some identified more with the whites because that's the way they felt, I guess.
Or they could pass over.
Because they could go any place the white people went if they wanted to go.
Did they have their own little community? Or
well, usually there wasn't too many of them here. They only came during crop time, like when it was time to pick tomatoes or follow the crops, like going to Michigan to pick cherries and different things like that. So they would just be like seasonal people that just came and went.
Is that how you met your husband? So you didn't run into any problems when?
No.
How did black community, would they identify with Mexicans more than whites? It was the other, I guess about a couple of weeks ago, you were telling me about the barber shop, and it was your father who had to build? It was somebody?
It was her father. She was telling you that. That was her
Okay.
father that built that building on the other side of the street.
Oh, okay. I thought that was your daughter.
That's my daughter.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But see, it was her dad that built the shop for them. See, my daughter lived in California at that time, and her husband was a barber. And so she wanted to come back to Indiana because we lived here. So he built that barber shop on that corner. And they come back and was there until he died. And that's when she bought the barber shop where she's at now.
Oh, that wasn't her father. It was a different father. Her father.
No.
Yeah.
She was married to that. That's her husband, you know, that has the shop in there now.
Okay.
But I mean, it was her father that built the shop for them.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Oh, but that's your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So her father wasn't your husband.
Yeah. See, that was my first husband. See,
Okay.
she's the oldest daughter.
Oh, okay.
And so she married Carl, but they moved to California and was cutting hair there because he was a barber then.
All right. Okay. So your first husband, he was Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
and he built the barbershop for you.
Mm-hmm.
Was he a barber also?
No, he was automobile mechanic.
But he did. So he just worked as a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
He just built it for them just so they
Just
could
for
have
them to have the shop.
Okay. All right. And now, was there any? That was in the 50s. Did he build that?
That was about 40. That may have been about 1950 or somewhere in the 50s.
Okay. And that's it's been there. They've been there ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And has there been anybody else in the family that's
Well, before they came back and took the barbershop, there used to be a restaurant. He built a restaurant there. But that was a long time ago. Before the building was there, it was just 2 buses, ordinary buses. Took all the seats out and made it into a lunchroom.
Oh, okay.
That used to be there on that corner where the barbershop is. Where the barbershop was, I mean.
Okay, because that was the building across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved into another building?
Over there where they are now.
Yeah, okay.
So now, that's my daughter that opened up the place last Friday for another restaurant. She opened it up. That's my daughter that has it now.
Okay.
Her name is Rosita.
Okay.
Well, that's my daughter too, so she opened that corner place now.
Right next to the, is that next door to the barbershop? Is that
No, that's over there where the barbershop was. Over on that corner. Did you see it where it said fish on that corner there?
Oh, right.
Well, that's where the barbershop used to be.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so now my other daughter has it for a restaurant now.
Okay. All right. So, your husband, I guess he was pretty handy then with
Yeah, did a lot of
carpentry
electrical work and plumbing and garage work and things like that. He was pretty handy for things like that.
I know it must have took a lot of work to just do those buses over.
Mm-hmm. There was 2 buses. Started out with 1, and then it was too much for 1, so then he added another bus to the other side, so it was like a double bus, you know, and we had a kitchen and a dining area.
Oh, okay.
And then when they took the 2 buses away, that's what made that big building in the back there. That's what used to be the restaurant right there.
Okay. Did he have good business?
It was fair. Especially it was just me and him and the younger children that was at home at that time. And some of them was married and gone, and the ones that was at home, why they helped run it. And then when he got tired of that, it stayed about 4 years as a restaurant. Well, then that's when we did the laundry work.
Okay.
And we did that about 2 or 3 years.
In the same area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've been involved in a lot of businesses. So you had, I guess, just washing machines and dryers and things like that?
Had washers and dryers and ironers.
How long were you in that business?
About 2 or 3 years.
So why was there a particular reason why you stopped the restaurant business?
Well, he really thought it was too hard on me, and it really was, because it was just myself and him and the girls that was at home. And so we give that up, but he was a business type man. He always wanted to be doing something, and so then the boys was gone, and so then then we did laundry work for about 2 or 3 years. And of course the garage work has always been, they always did garage work, and that's what that garage down farther, he built that and did garage work there.
Is that further down Highland, going from
No, down the other way, down Penn Street. You know, there's a garage down there on that alley.
In Industry?
No.
In Whiteley?
Mm-hmm.
Penn Street down there. Okay, I have to look for that.
Mm-hmm.
And is that still open? Does somebody else have it now?
Well, right now, they're repairing it, and they're going to put some new doors up. And of course, that boy of mine that's a mechanic lives in Indianapolis. But he comes over here sometime, and then he's going to, maybe sometime he'll either rent it or open it himself.
So it's still in the family, though?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. So, you know, did you stop the laundry business because it wasn't...
Well, when one of the girls got married and left, and so we just give that up too.
Okay. Did you do any dry cleaning also? Or just
No, just
washing?
laundry work, just washing, ironing.
Okay. You did it yourself, or was it like where people could come in and...
They could come in and bring, and we did shirts as a specialty, because I used to do shirts for the college boys at Ball State. And there was a man that would bring the shirts to me, and I'd wash them and iron them and put them on hangers. I guess we were about the first ones that started hanging shirts on hangers, and that's the way we sent them back. They'd be on hangers. I used to put buttons on them and sometimes turn collars and things like that. So we did that about 2 or 3 years too.
Well, what year was that?
Let's see, that must have been about 56, 55, 56, somewhere in there, because he died in 57. And at that time I had took a job at a fraternity house, Landakai Fraternity House on Riverside, and those boys went to Ball State, and I cooked there, and I worked there for 10 years.
Were they did they treat you?
Yeah, they were nice to me. Very nice. Never had any problem out of any of them.
So when you had the laundry business, you got a lot of white business also then?
That's mostly what I had.
What did you have?
Mm-hmm.
Did your husband have any particular name for the restaurant?
They used to call it the Mexico Lunch. I don't have any. It's been some time ago that this Dick Green that writes for the paper, well, he talked about it one time, not too long ago.
Do you have any clippings or anything like that?
I don't have, but I remember it came out in the paper. But there's probably, some other people that could talk about it. I mean, it was there, and I said the building's still there, and so the boys have been trying to keep it up in pretty good repair, and so this daughter decided to open up that restaurant because she cooks.
But the actual buses, are they still there?
No,
they moved on. Also, there was some talk about somebody else, another man who was around the first barber, who opened a business or something? Or who had that building where the barbershop is now?
Oh, there used to be a barber there. His name was Carl Beatty, but he's dead now. So I don't remember.
Because he opened that building.
Yeah, he had that barbershop. That's been years back. I forget how long that he was there and had that barbershop. And then he moved farther down on Highland and still had a barbershop. And I guess at one time he must have been across the street from that pool room that's farther down, and must have been the owner of that tavern at one time.
So, wasn't there some talk about, I think, one of the first black barbers in Muncie, and he's supposed to be still living?
That may be Mr. McKinney, but he used to be here and this way on 2nd.
In the industry. Are there any barbers in the industry now?
No.
So it's the only two are in White, Roundhouse and Shoemaker.
But there's a barbershop over here, right over on Willard, But I don't know that. I don't know his name.
Oh, okay. But Mr. McKinney, do you know his first name?
No, I don't. We just always called him Mr. McKinney, and I never knew his first name. But he's an old barber.
And he lives in Whiting?
No, he lives. I don't know where Mr. McKinney lives. He lives someplace around here, but I don't know where. Somebody around here might know where he lives.
If anybody remembers the whole farm. Okay. So, and was he established in Whiting? Was he
Mr. McKinney? No, I think he was on this side of town.
Right.
I believe Carl Beatty was the one that was on that side at that time.
So they were the two then?
Okay.
Mr. Beatty and Mr. McKinney. So they've always just been about two guys?
Something like that.
Okay. Now, do you remember any photos or any pictures that you took of any of the businesses you had with you and husband? No kind of family?
We never was. I don't have any pictures at all.
No clippings, anything?
I guess I just never thought of it that way.
Okay. I guess that about wraps it up for this session. Thank you very much.
July 1st, 1980.